The smell of coffee had just begun to fill my kitchen when the sharp crack of metal on wood shattered the morning calm. I stood at the counter, fingers wrapped around my favorite mug, the one Sarah had given me for our 30th anniversary. The sound came again. Someone was at the back door, pounding hard enough to rattle the frame. Through the window over the sink, November frost traced patterns across the glass. The lake beyond my property sat gray and still, the kind of Ontario morning where the cold seeps through walls no matter how high you turn the heat. I'd been awake since 5, couldn't sleep properly since the accident 2 weeks ago. My left shoulder still throbbed where the seatbelt had caught me, bruises spreading across my ribs like spilled ink. I set down the mug and moved toward the door, each step sending small jolts through my chest. The x-rays had shown 3 cracked ribs. The doctor said I was lucky. The car was totaled, wrapped around a hydro pole on Highway 7, but I'd walked away with nothing but bruises and a concussion that left me dizzy for days. The pounding came again. "Dad, open up, it's freezing out here." My daughter's voice. Emma. I unlocked the deadbolt and pulled open the door. She stood on the back deck, arms wrapped tight across her body, breath coming in white puffs. Behind her, Marcus leaned against the railing, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets, his eyes scanning my property like he was taking inventory. "Emma, what are you doing here? It's not even 7. She pushed past me, into the warmth, Marcus following close behind. Neither of them asked how I was feeling. Neither mentioned the bruises still visible on my face. "We need to talk, Dad." Emma went straight to the coffee pot, pouring herself a cup without asking. Marcus stayed near the door, his presence filling the space in that way he had, like he owned every room he entered. "About what?" I lowered myself into the chair by the table, moving carefully. The ribs didn't like sudden movements. Emma glanced at Marcus. Something passed between them, some unspoken agreement. She turned to face me, both hands wrapped around the mug. "About this place. About you living here alone. Dad, you almost died 2 weeks ago." "I'm fine. Few bruises, that's all." "You're not fine." Marcus spoke for the first time, his voice carrying that edge of impatience he always had when talking to me. "You fell asleep at the wheel, wrapped your car around a pole. At your age, Emma and I have been talking, and we think it's time to consider other options." "Other options," the words hung in the air between us. "What kind of options?" I kept my voice level, neutral. 30 years, as a forensic accountant, had taught me the value of staying calm when something didn't add up. Emma set down her cup. "There are some really nice retirement communities in Peterborough, closer to us. You'd have people around all day, activities, proper care if you need it." "I don't need care. I need coffee and quiet, which I had until about 10 minutes ago." "Dad, be serious." Emma's voice took on that tone she used when she'd already made up her mind about something. "This house is too much for you. All this land, the maintenance, the isolation. You're 2 hours from the nearest hospital. What if something happens? What if you fall? What if there's another accident?" I studied my daughter's face, looking for the girl who used to sit at this same table, doing homework while Sarah made dinner. That girl had loved this place, had spent every summer swimming in the lake, had brought her friends up here right through university. When had she started looking at it like a burden? "I'm not selling my home, Emma. We're not asking you to sell it." Marcus pushed off from the door frame, crossing to stand beside Emma. They presented a united front, the two of them, against me. "We've been talking to a realtor in Toronto. With the market the way it is, lakefront properties like this are selling for over $800,000, maybe more. You bought this place for what, $60,000 back in the 80s? $72,000. In 1983, Sarah and I saved for 5 years. Right. Marcus barely acknowledged the mention of my wife. Point is, you're sitting on nearly $750,000. Money you could use to live somewhere safe, somewhere with medical staff on site. Emma and I are happy to help you through the process. In fact, I've already been in touch with a lawyer about setting up a power of attorney arrangement. Just temporary, while you recover from the accident." The words landed like stones in still water. Power of attorney. I took a slow breath, felt the ribs protest. "That's thoughtful of you, Marcus. But I don't need a power of attorney. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own affairs. Dad, you're being stubborn. Emma's voice cracked slightly. We're trying to help you. We love you. We don't want to see you hurt again. Or living alone out here, wasting away, Marcus added. It's not fair to Emma, worrying about you all the time. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, the way she wouldn't meet my eyes, the way her fingers kept twisting the ring on her left hand, the diamond Marcus had given her 3 years ago, the ring that cost more than he made in a year selling used cars. When did you two have time to talk to a realtor? The accident was only 2 weeks ago. Emma's face flushed. We've been concerned for a while now. Since Mom died. That was 4 years ago, Dad. 4 years of you living out here alone. The accident just made it clear that we need to act. Act. I repeated the word, tasting it. Interesting choice of words. Look, we came here to help you. Marcus's patience was wearing thin. I could see it in the set of his jaw, the way his hands had formed fists in his pockets. But if you want to be difficult about it, we can do this the hard way. Emma's your only child, only family. The courts would listen to her concerns about her elderly father's safety and judgment. Marcus. Emma's voice held a warning. No, let him finish. I leaned back in the chair, ignoring the pain in my ribs. I want to hear exactly what he's suggesting. Marcus smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I'm suggesting we're trying to do this nicely. But there are legal avenues if an elderly person isn't capable of making sound decisions anymore, especially after trauma like a car accident. Especially if they're refusing help from concerned family members. That's all I'm saying. The threat was clear. Cooperate, or they'd try to have me declared incompetent. I stood up slowly, steadying myself against the table. I think you should both leave now. Dad, please. Emma reached for my arm. I pulled away. Leave. Now. Before I say something I can't take back. They left. Marcus first, his footsteps heavy across the deck. Emma lingered in the doorway, her face twisted with something that might have been guilt or frustration. I couldn't tell anymore. We're not giving up on this, she said quietly. We're trying to protect you. Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. I stood alone in my kitchen, the coffee gone cold in the pot, and felt the first real stirring of fear. Not fear of being alone or of managing the house. Fear of what I'd just seen in my daughter's eyes, the calculation, the certainty. The way she and Marcus had rehearsed this conversation, like lines from a script. I picked up my phone and opened the calendar, scrolled back 2 weeks to the day of the accident, November 10th. I'd been driving home from Bancroft, where I'd gone to pick up some supplies at the lumber yard. It had been 2 in the afternoon, broad daylight, and I'd had 1 cup of coffee that morning. 1 cup, and I'd felt fine until suddenly I wasn't. Until the world went gray and spinny, and I was waking up with paramedics shining lights in my eyes. Fell asleep at the wheel, the OPP officer had written in his report. No other vehicles involved, no witnesses. The stretch of highway where I'd crashed was rural, isolated. The kind of place where you could hit a pole and not be found for hours if you were unlucky. But I hadn't fallen asleep. I remembered that much. I remembered feeling strange, feeling wrong. Remembered pulling over, or trying to pull over. And then nothing. I went to the cabinet above the fridge, the one where I kept the medication. Found the prescription bottle that the emergency doctor had given me that day. Pain medication. 2 pills, she'd said. 1 in the morning if I needed it. I'd taken one that day in the hospital, felt sick and fuzzy, and hadn't touched them since. I opened the bottle and shook out a pill. Looked at it closely. Small, white, round. Exactly like the sleeping pills I'd been prescribed months ago after Sarah died, the ones I'd stopped taking because they made me groggy. Too similar, maybe. I went to my office, the small room at the front of the house, where I'd set up my desk after retiring, fired up my computer, and started going through my files. Bank statements first. Checking account showed nothing unusual. Savings account, same. But when I pulled up the account for the house insurance, the one that auto-paid every month, something was off. The payment history showed a lapse. 2 months ago, the automatic payment had failed. I'd received an email about it. I remembered now. Had logged in to fix it, update the credit card information. Except I was looking at the account now and the credit card on file wasn't mine. It was one I didn't recognize, and the billing address was a P.O. box in Peterborough. Peterborough, where Emma and Marcus lived. I sat back in my chair, ribs aching, head starting to pound with more than just the lingering effects of the concussion. Pulled up my email and searched for the insurance company's name. Found the message from 2 months ago. Clicked on the link in the email. The link took me to a site that looked exactly like my insurance company's login page. Except when I looked closely at the URL, really looked at it, I could see it was off by one letter. A phishing site. A fake, designed to capture login credentials. Someone had sent me a phishing email, gotten my username and password, and changed my insurance payment to their own card. But that didn't make sense. The insurance was still active. They were still paying it. Why would someone pay my house insurance with their own money? Unless they needed the policy to stay active. Unless they needed the house to stay insured for something that was going to happen. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Dad, please think about what we said. We only want what's best for you. We love you." I stared at the message, at the words, "We love you," that suddenly felt hollow. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in 5 years. Thomas Chen, former colleague from my days at the Ontario Securities Commission. We'd worked together on fraud cases, tracking money through shell corporations and offshore accounts. Tom had retired 3 years before me, moved to Ottawa, but we'd stayed in touch sporadically. Christmas cards, the occasional email. He answered on the third ring. "David, that really you?" "Tom, yeah, it's me. I need a favor, a big one. Name it. I need you to do a background check. Financial records, credit reports, court filings, everything you can find." "On who?" I took a breath, felt the ribs pull. "My son-in-law, Marcus Brennan." Tom was quiet for a moment. "This official or personal?" "Personal. Very personal. But Tom, I need it fast, and I need it quiet." "You want to tell me what this is about?" "Not yet. Maybe never." "Can you do it?" "Give me 48 hours. I'll call you from a number you won't recognize. If a Toronto area code shows up, answer it." "Thanks, Tom." "David, be careful. If you're looking into family, there's usually a reason, and those reasons don't tend to end well." I hung up and sat in my office, watching the morning light spread across the lake. The trees on the far shore stood bare and black against the gray water. Winter was coming fast. This would be my 5th winter without Sarah, my 5th season of keeping this house warm by myself. Or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe Emma and Marcus were right. Maybe I was too old, too tired, too alone to keep fighting for this place. Except I wasn't tired, and I wasn't ready to quit. What I was, after 30 years of following money trails and catching people who thought they were clever enough to hide their crimes, was suspicious. The phone rang again, not my cell this time. The landline, the old rotary phone Sarah had insisted on keeping even after everyone else had gone digital. I picked it up. "Mr. Thornton?" A woman's voice. Professional, slightly nervous. "Yes? This is Jennifer Wu from Muskoka Realty. I hope I'm not calling too early. I wanted to follow up on the inquiry your son-in-law made about your property on Lake Bernard. He mentioned you might be interested in listing soon, and I wanted to reach out directly to discuss options. The market is very hot right now for waterfront properties, and I think we could get you a remarkable price if we move quickly." My hand tightened on the receiver. "Marcus contacted you?" "Yes, about 3 weeks ago. He said you'd had a health scare and were considering downsizing. He wanted to get information about the listing process, paperwork requirements, that sort of thing. I have to say, Mr. Thornton, properties like yours don't come available often. With the recent development on the North Shore and the new marina going in, values are climbing fast. If you're thinking of selling, now would be an excellent time." 3 weeks ago, before my accident. "I'm sorry." "What?" "Nothing. Miss Wu, thank you for calling, but I'm not interested in selling." Oh, I see." Marcus said, "Well, he seemed quite certain that you'd be listing soon. He even asked about expedited closing procedures. I thought, that is, I assumed." "You assumed wrong. I'm not selling. Not now. Not anytime soon. And if Marcus contacts you again about my property, You tell him the owner has no interest and no authorization has been given." I hung up before she could respond. Stood there in my office, the phone still in my hand, as pieces started falling into place like numbers in a ledger finally balancing. 3 weeks before my accident, Marcus was already talking to realtors. 2 months before that, someone accessed my insurance account and changed the payment method. Emma and Marcus showing up this morning with a rehearsed speech about retirement homes and power of attorney. The threat about having me declared incompetent if I didn't cooperate. And the accident itself. The way I'd felt so suddenly wrong, so dizzy and disoriented. The sleeping pills I'd been prescribed and the pain medication that looked identical. I went to the bathroom and found both bottles. Shook out one pill from each. Held them side by side in my palm. Identical. Anyone could have made the switch. Anyone who had access to my house. Who knew where I kept my medication. Who had been here in the months since Sarah died helping me sort through her things. Emma had been here. Emma and Marcus, both, going through closets and drawers, packing up Sarah's clothes for donation. Emma, who had a key to the house. Emma, who knew my routines, knew I had coffee every morning before driving anywhere. It would have been simple. Switch the pills in the pain medication bottle. Wait for me to take one before driving. The sleeping pill would hit fast, especially mixed with coffee. I'd get drowsy, disoriented, crash the car. Maybe die. Probably not. Not on a relatively slow rural road. But enough to scare me, shake me up, make me seem fragile and elderly, and in need of help. And then they'd swoop in with their solution. Retirement home, power of attorney. A quick sale of the property before I realized what was happening. Emma would get the money as my heir, and Marcus would finally have access to the kind of cash he'd been chasing since the day he married her. My phone buzzed again, the Toronto area code Tom had mentioned. "David, you sitting down? Tell me." Tom's voice was grim. "Your son-in-law is in deep. I'm talking $200,000 in credit card debt, another $150,000 in personal loans. His car dealership is underwater, hasn't turned a profit in 18 months. He took out a second mortgage on their house last year, and he's 3 payments behind. The bank's threatening foreclosure. Jesus. It gets worse. There's a court filing from 6 months ago. A former business partner is suing him for breach of contract and fraud. Claims Marcus sold vehicles with undisclosed damage, pocketed the money, and left him holding the liability. Trial set for January. If he loses, he's looking at another $250,000 in damages. So, he's desperate. Beyond desperate, he's drowning. And David, there's one more thing. Your daughter's name is on some of these accounts. Joint credit cards, joint loans. If he goes down, she goes with him." I closed my eyes. Saw Emma at age 7, holding up a painting she'd made at school. Emma at 16, getting her driver's license. Emma at 25, introducing me to Marcus for the first time, her eyes shining with hope. "Thanks, Tom." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out." I spent the rest of the day in my office, going through every document I could find. Insurance policies, property records, bank statements. Built a timeline of everything that had happened in the last 3 months. Then I made a list of everything I'd need to prove what they'd done. The switched pills would be first. I called my doctor's office, asked for copies of all my prescriptions from the past year. The secretary said they could have them ready by tomorrow. Good. Next, I needed proof that someone had accessed my house to make the switch. I went to the closet in the hallway, pulled out the old box of Sarah's photography equipment, found her spare camera, the one with the motion sensor feature she'd used for wildlife shots. Took me an hour to remember how to set it up, but finally I had it mounted in the corner of the kitchen, angled toward the medication cabinet. If anyone came into my house again, I'd have footage. Then I called my lawyer, Richard Moss, the same man who'd handled Sarah's will and our estate planning. Old school, careful, the kind of lawyer who still used a fountain pen. "David, good to hear from you. How are the ribs healing?" Slowly. "Richard, I need to make some changes to my will." "Certainly. What kind of changes?" "I want to set up a trust. The house goes into it immediately, effective today. I'm the trustee while I'm alive. But upon my death, the property doesn't go to Emma. It goes to the Lake Bernard Conservation Foundation. They can turn it into a nature preserve, education center, whatever they want. But it doesn't get sold. It doesn't get developed. And Emma doesn't inherit a cent from it. Richard was quiet for a long moment. David, that's a significant change. Emma is your only child. Are you certain about this? I'm certain. How fast can you draw up the papers? I can have them ready by end of day tomorrow. But David, I have to ask, is everything all right between you and Emma? Everything's fine, Richard. I just want to make sure my wishes are clear. Sarah loved this land. She'd want it protected. All right. I'll have the documents ready. Come by my office tomorrow at 4. I hung up and sat back in my chair. Phase 1 complete. The house was protected. No matter what happened to me now, Emma and Marcus couldn't touch it. But that wasn't enough. I wanted them to know, wanted them to understand exactly how they'd failed. That night, I didn't sleep. Lay in bed watching shadows move across the ceiling, listening to the house creak and settle around me. This place had been in my life for 40 years. I'd carried Sarah across the threshold the summer we bought it. We'd raised Emma here, had taught her to swim off the dock, had watched her grow from child to woman within these walls. And now she was trying to take it from me, not for sentiment or family preservation, but for money to save her husband's failing business. My phone lit up in the darkness. 2 a.m., a text from Emma. Can't sleep thinking about our conversation. Please, Dad, let us help you. We can come by tomorrow, go over everything calmly. Marcus says there are programs that can help with the transition. You don't have to do this alone. I read the message twice. Looked for any sign of the daughter, I remembered. Found only calculated words, each one chosen to manipulate. The phrase, "you don't have to do this alone," particularly stung, as if they were offering companionship instead of theft. I typed a response, deleted it, typed another, finally settled on something simple. Come by tomorrow, noon. We'll talk. The reply came immediately. Thank you, Dad. We love you. See you tomorrow. I set down the phone and allowed myself a thin smile. Yes, we would talk. We would talk about a great many things. The next morning, I drove into town. The drive felt different now, knowing what I knew. Every curve in the road, every section of pavement became potential evidence of what they'd tried to do. I took it slow, paying attention to how I felt. Clear-headed, alert, no dizziness. No sleeping pills in my coffee this time. Richard's office was in an old building on the main street, the kind of place where lawyers still had secretaries and filing cabinets instead of clouds and apps. He had the papers ready, as promised. I read through them carefully, my old instincts from the Securities Commission kicking in. Every clause, every provision checked. You're sure about this? Richard asked as I signed. Completely. He notarized the documents, filed copies, handed me the originals. The trust is established. As of right now, the property is protected. Your will has been updated. Emma will receive your personal effects and financial accounts, but the land and house are separate. Perfect. One more thing, Richard. If anything happens to me, anything suspicious, I want you to immediately contact the OPP. Tell them about these documents. Tell them about the timing. His eyes narrowed. David, what's going on? Insurance, Richard. That's all. Just insurance. I stopped at the pharmacy on the way home, picked up the prescription records, confirmed what I already knew. 2 bottles, one for pain medication, one for sleeping pills. Both prescribed, both legitimate, both identical in appearance. Back at the house, I had 2 hours before Emma and Marcus arrived. I spent it setting up one final piece of the puzzle. Tom had sent me an email that morning with a detailed financial report on Marcus. I printed it all, organized it in a folder, added the prescription records, added a printout of my insurance account showing the unauthorized card change, created a timeline document outlining everything that had happened. Then I put it all in an envelope, addressed it to the OPP detachment in Bancroft, and left it in my desk drawer. At exactly noon, I heard tires on the gravel drive. I'd made coffee, set out 3 mugs on the kitchen table. arranged myself in the chair where I could see their faces clearly. The knock came. I called for them to enter. Emma came in first, Marcus behind her. They were dressed nicely, like they were going to a business meeting. In a way, they were. "Dad, thank you for agreeing to talk." Emma took the chair across from me. Marcus remained standing, his usual dominance play. "Coffee?" I gestured to the pot. "I'm fine, thanks." Emma's hands twisted together in her lap. "Look, I know yesterday got a bit tense. Marcus was just trying to help, and maybe we came on too strong." "Maybe?" I kept my voice neutral, conversational. "We're worried about you," Marcus said. He'd moved to the window, looking out at the lake. "That's all this is. Concern from family. The accident scared us, David. Scared us badly. We don't want to see you get hurt again." Interesting choice of words. See me get hurt again. As if you're worried about a repeat occurrence. Emma's eyes flickered. "What do you mean?" "I mean, Marcus here was talking to realtors about selling my house 3 weeks before my accident. Before there was any reason to think I needed to move. Isn't that right, Marcus?" He turned from the window. His face had gone carefully blank. "I was just gathering information. Being proactive. Proactive. Like how someone was proactive enough to access my insurance account 2 months ago and change the payment information. Like how someone who had a key to my house might have been proactive enough to switch my medications." The silence in the kitchen was absolute. Emma had gone pale. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Dad, what are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, opened the photo I'd taken of the 2 pill bottles side by side, slid it across the table to Emma. Pain medication and sleeping pills. Identical. Easy to mix up if someone wanted to make an elderly man drowsy before he got behind the wheel. Easy to create an accident that would make him seem fragile and confused and in need of help. "That's insane." Marcus's voice had gone cold. "You're suggesting we tried to hurt you?" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. Tom Chen, my former colleague at the Securities Commission, ran your financials, Marcus. You're bankrupt. 200,000 in debt, business failing, lawsuit pending. You need money desperately, and my house is worth $800,000. Money that would go to Emma if something happened to me. Money that would solve all your problems." Emma stood up, chair scraping against the floor. "Dad, stop. You don't know what you're saying. You're confused, the concussion. The concussion that happened after I mysteriously got drowsy driving home? After having 1 cup of coffee and a pain pill from a bottle that someone with access to my house could have tampered with?" I remained seated, kept my voice level. "I'm not confused, Emma. I'm angry and disappointed, but not confused." Marcus moved fast. He crossed the kitchen in 2 steps, leaning down so his face was inches from mine. "You can't prove any of this. You're a paranoid old man making accusations you can't back up, and even if you could, who would believe you? Your own daughter? Please. Sit down, Marcus." He didn't move. Loomed over me, using his size to intimidate, a tactic I'd seen 100 times in interrogation rooms. It never worked on me then either. I said, "Sit down." Something in my voice must have reached him. He straightened, took a step back. Emma grabbed his arm. "Marcus, let's just go." "No." I stood up slowly, feeling every ache in my ribs. "You came here for a conversation. Let's have one. You want my house. You need the money. Fair enough. Here's my counteroffer." They both stared at me. "I spoke to my lawyer yesterday. The house is now in an irrevocable trust. When I die, it doesn't go to Emma. It goes to the Lake Bernard Conservation Foundation. They'll turn it into a nature preserve. The house, the land, all of it, protected forever." Emma's face crumpled. "Dad, no. You can't." "I already did. The documents are filed. Nothing you do to me now changes that. You can't sell it. You can't develop it. You can't touch it. All that money you were counting on? Gone." Marcus's face had turned red. "You spiteful old bastard." "Careful, Marcus. I've also documented everything I've discovered in the last 48 hours. Your financial situation, the suspicious timing of events, the switched medications. It's all in an envelope addressed to the OPP. If anything happens to me, anything at all, my lawyer has instructions to send it immediately. And trust me, they'll investigate, especially once they see the pattern. There is no pattern, Emma said desperately. Dad, you're wrong about this. About all of it. We were trying to help you. Help me right into a retirement home so you could sell my house and save Marcus's failing business. That kind of help? She opened her mouth, closed it. I saw the moment she realized I knew everything. Saw the hope drain from her face. I want you both to leave now. And Emma, leave your key to the house on the table. Dad, your key. Now. She fumbled with her key ring, hands shaking, pulled off the brass key, the one I'd given her when she turned 16, laid it on the table like she was laying down a weapon. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. We were desperate. Marcus's business, the lawsuit, the debt. We didn't know what else to do. You could have asked me for help. You could have been honest. Instead, you tried to rob me. Worse, you tried to make me think I was losing my mind. We never wanted to hurt you, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. Get out. They left. Through the window, I watched their car pull away, gravel spraying from the tires. Watched until it disappeared around the curve in the road. Then I sat down at my kitchen table, in the house that Sarah and I had built a life in, and felt every one of my 68 years settle onto my shoulders. I'd won. The house was safe. They couldn't touch me. But the victory tasted like ash. Because my daughter had tried to destroy me for money. Because the little girl who used to pick wildflowers by the lake had grown into a woman who would poison her own father's medication to steal his home. My phone rang. Tom Chen. Did they come by? They came. And they left. It's done. You all right? I will be. Eventually. David, you did the right thing. You know that. Doesn't make it hurt less. No, I guess it doesn't. Listen, I'm driving up your way next week. I'll stop by, bring some decent whiskey. We can sit by your lake and remind ourselves why we spent 30 years catching bastards like him. I'd like that, Tom. Thank you. I hung up and walked through my house, room by room, the bedroom where Sarah died, the living room where Emma learned to walk, the kitchen where we'd had 1,000 family dinners. Every corner held memories, held ghosts of better times. Outside, the lake stretched gray and endless beneath the November sky. Winter was coming, and I'd face it alone, as I'd faced the last 4 winters alone. But this time, I'd face it knowing the truth about my daughter, knowing what she was capable of. The house was safe. The land was protected. Sarah's legacy would continue. But the cost of that protection was every memory I'd had of Emma as a child, every hope I'd held for our future, every piece of love I'd kept burning for her since Sarah died. Some victories, I realized, feel an awful lot like losing everything that mattered. I poured myself a coffee, sat at the table, and waited for spring to come.